Okay, Shabbat Shalom and welcome to this week's World Alliance of Qara'im Torah study. I am Hakham Melech Ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and I will be your tour guide on this Torah study. So let's dig right in. We are now in Exodus 38. And we're going to start in Exodus 38:20. One second here. There we go. And we're going to start in Exodus 38:20, and we're going to go up to the end of the book of Exodus. So this parsha finishes off the book of Exodus for us. This parsha Pekudei, Exodus 38:21 for 38. So I'm going to do what I usually do. Those of you join me for the Torah study by now, that in the morning Torah study, I basically read through with minimal commentary, and in the afternoon Torah study, we dig in more deeply. So let's get going. There we go. And we're in Exodus 38:21. And it says, Ela Pekudei ha-mishkan, mishkan ha-iduth, asher kad al pi Moshe, avodat ha-lewiim, biyad Itamar ben Aharon ha-kohen. Verse 22. Ubitzalel ben Uri, ben Hur, למטה יהודה עשה את כל אשר ציווה יהוה את משה ואיתו ליאב בן אחי סמך למטה דן הרש וחשב ורוקם בתכלת ובארגמון to la'at shani hashani u bashesh. Verse 24. Kol ha-zahav he asui le-melacha b'chol melechet ha-kodesh wahi zahav atnufa tesha wa asrim kikar ushva me'ot ushloshim ha-kodesh uchesef Pekudei ha-edah me'at kikar wa-elef ushva me'ot u-hamisha wa-shiv'im shekel b'shekel ha-kodesh. Verse 26. Be'ka le-gulgolet mahatzit ha-shekel b'shekel ha-kodesh l'chol ha-over al ha-pekudim miben 20 shana wa-ma'ala'a ל-600,000 ו3,000 ו500. Verse 27. ויהי מעט כיכר הכסף לא סקת את אדני הקודש ואת אדני הפרוכת מעט אדונים למעט הכיכר לאדן. ואת One second here. ואת ha-אלף ושבע המאות ו5 ו70 עשה ועבים לעמודים וציפה ראשיהם, וחישק אותם, ונחושת התנופה 70 כיכר, ו2,400 שקל. ויעש בה את אבני פתח אוהל מועד, ואת מזבח הנחושת, ואת מחבר הנחושת אשר לו, ואת כל כלי המזבח, ואת אדני החצר סביב, ואת אדני שאר החצר, ואת כל יסודות המשכן, ואת כל יסודות החצר סביב. Okay, that's the end of Exodus 38. Now on to Exodus 39. ומן התכלת והארגמן ותולעת השני עשו בכדי שרד לשרת בקודש, ויעשו את בכדי הקודש אשר לאהרון כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. יעש את האפוד זהב תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש משזר, וירקעו את פחי הזהב וקצץ פתילים לעשות בתוך תכלת ובתוך הארגמן ובתוך תולעת השני ובתוך השש מעשה חושב. Verse 4. תפות עשו לו הוברות על שני כיסותיו, ובור והשב אפו דתו אשר עליו, ממנו הוא כמעשהו זהב תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש משזר כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. ועשו את אבני השוחם מוסבות משבצות זהב מפותחות פיתוחי חותם על שמות בני ישראל, וישים אותם על כתפות האפוד, אבני זיכרון לבני ישראל, כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 8. ויעש את החושן מעשה חושב כמעשה אפוד זהב תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש משזר, רבוע היה כפול. עשו את החושן זרת ארכו וזרת רוחבו כפול, וימעלו בו 4 טורי אבן, טור אודם, פתדה וברקת, הטור האחד והטור השני נופך, ספיר ויוחלום, והטור השלישי לשם, שבו ואחלומה. Verse 13. והטור הרביעי תרשיש, שוהם ויושפה, מוסבות משבצות זהב במילואותום. Verse 14. והאבנים על שמות בני ישראל הנה 12 על שמותם, פיתוחי חותם איש על שמו ל12 שבט. ויעשו על החושן שרשרות גבלות מעשה אבות זהב טהור. ויעשו 2 משבצות זהב ושתי טבעות זהב, ויתנו את 2 הטבעות על 2 קצות החושן. Verse 17. ויתנו 2 האבותות הזהב על 2 הטבעות על קצות החושן. Verse 18. ואת 2 קצות 2 האבותות נותנו על 2 המשבצות, ויתנום על כתפות האפוד אל מול פניו. ויעשו 2 טבעות זהב, וישימו על 2 קצות החושן, על שפתו אשר אל עבר האפוד ביתה. ויעשו 2 טבעות זהב, ויתנום על 2 כתפות האפוד מלמטה, ממול פניו, לעומת מחברתו ממעל לחשב האפוד, וירכסו את החושן מטבעותיו אל טבעת האפוד בפתיל התכלת להיות על חשב האפוד ולא ייזח החושן מעל האפוד כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. ויעש את מעיל האפוד מעשה עורר כליל תכלת ופי המעיל תוכו פי it's tachra. It's a little bit weird in this way they do it here. Safa lefiv saviv lo yikora. I'm sorry, lo yikorea. ويعصوا على شولي هنعيل ريموني تخيلت وأرغمان وتورعات الشاني مش زار ويسو بعموني زهاب طهور ويثنو הבעמונים בתוך הרימונים על שולי המעיל סביב בתוך הרימונים. verse 26 פעמון ורימון על שולי המעיל סביב לשרת כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. ויעשו את הכתונת 6 מעשה הורג לאהרון ולבנו ואת המצנפת 6 ואת פערי המגבעות 6 ואת מכנסי הבד 6 משזר ואת האבנת 6 משזר ותכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני מעשה רוקם כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. And by the way, maybe I should reveal that I think I'm going to switch over from Yehovah, which I think is incorrect, to Yahweh. And I will speak about the reasons that I'm doing that in coming weeks. I just need to go over some material first. But if you hear me say Yahweh instead of Yehovah, it's because I've changed my opinion based on a video series, a very detailed and brilliant video series that I've seen, which debunks the idea that Yehovah is the correct pronunciation. So, okay, ويعصوا את ציץ נזר חודש זהב טהור ויכתבו עליו מכתב תחי חותם קודש ליהוה ויתנו עליו פתיל תכלת ואותת על המצנפת מלמעלה אשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Okay, so we are now in Exodus 39, verse 32. ותחל כל עבודת משכן, אוהל מועד, ויעשו בני ישראל ככל אשר ציווה יהוה את משה, כן עשו, ויביאו את המשכן אל משה, את האוהל ואת כל כליו, כרסיו, כראשיו, בריחיו, ועמודיו עד דוניו, ואת מכסה אורות האלים המעדמים, ואת מכסה אורות התחשים, ואת פרוכת המסך, את ארון העדות, ואת בדאו, ואת הכפורת, את השולחן, את כל כליו, ואת לחם הפונים, את המנורה הטהורה, את נירותיה, נירות המערכה, ואת כל כליה, ואת שמן המאור, ואת מזבח הזהב, ואת שמן המשחה, ואת קטורת הסמים, ואת מסך פתח האוהל, verse 39, את מזבח הנחושת, ואת מחבר הנחושת, אשר לא את בדאו, ואת כל כליו, את הכיאור, ואת קנו, את קלעי החצר, את עמודיה, ואת אדוניה, ואת המסך לשאר החצר, את מטוריו, ויתבותיה, ואת כל כלי עבודת המשכן לאוהל מועד, verse 41, את בגדי השרד לשרת בקודש, את בגדי קודש לאהרון הכהן, ואת בגדי בניו לכהן, ככל אשר ציווה יהוה את משה כן עשו בני ישראל את כל העבודה, וירא משה את כל המלאכה, והנה עשו אותו כאשר ציווה יהוה, כן, ויברך אותם משה. Okay, so that takes us up to the end of Exodus 39. I see someone called Yehonatan. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, it says device is not connected, and then it says they will need to connect their mic or cam before you can add them to the stream. So if you can hear me, Yehonatan, then you will have to connect your devices, meaning your mic and your cam, before I can add you to the stream. Okay. So now we're on to chapter 40. This is the last chapter in the book of Exodus, and let's do it. וידבר יהוה אל משה לאמור ביום החודש הראשון באחד לחודש תקים את משכן אוהל מועד. So the Mishkan is being set up on the first day of the first month, right? That is the month of the Aviv. That's the same month. This is now a year later. This is the same month that the Israelites exit from the land of Egypt. وصمت شام את ארון העדות וסקטה על הארון את הפרוכת והבאת את השולחן וערכת את ערכו והבאת את המנורה והעלית את נרותיה ונתת את מזבח הזהב קטורת לפני ארון העדות ושמת את מסך הפתח למשכן ונתת את מזבח העולה לפני פתח משכן אוהל מועד ונתת את קיר הכיאור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח ונתת שם מים ושמת את החצר סביב ונתת את מסך שעל החצר ולקחת את שמן המשחה ומשכת את המשכן ואת כל אשר בו וקידשת אותו ואת כל כליו והיה קודש ומשכת את מזבח העולה ואת כל כליו וקידשת את המזבח והיה המזבח קודש קודשים. So we're now up to verse 11. ומשכת את הכיאור ואת קנו וקידשת אותו והקרבת את אהרון ואת בניו ואת פתח אוהל מועד ורחצת אותם במים. verse 13. והלבשת את אהרון את בגדי הקודש ומשכת אותו וקידשת אותו וכהן לי. verse 14. ואת בניו תקריב והלבשת אותם כותונת ומשכת אותם כאשר משכת את אביהם וכהנו לי והייתה להיות להם משחתם לכהונת עולם לדורותם. ויעש משה ככל אשר ציווה יהוה אותו כן עשה. verse 17. ויהי בחודש הראשון בשנה השנית באחד לחודש קם המשכן ויקם משה את המשכן וייתן את אדוניו וישם את קירשיו וייתן את בריחיו ויקם את עמודיו ויפרוס את האוהל על המשכן וישם את מחסה האוהל עליו מלמעלה כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה ויקח וייתן את העדות אל הארון וישם את הבדים על הארון וייתן את הכפורת על הארון מלמעלה ויבא את הארון אל המשכן וישם את פרוכת המסך ויסך על ארון העדות כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 22. ויתן השולחן באוהל מועד על ירך המשכן צפונה מחוץ לפרוכת, ויערוך עליו ערך לחם לפני יהוה. כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה, וישם את המנורה באוהל מועד נוכח השולחן על ירך המשכן נגבה. ויעל הנרות לפני יהוה, כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 26. וישם את מזבח הזהב באוהל מועד לפני הפרוכת, ויקטר עליו קטורת סמים, כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. וישם את מסך הפתח למשכן, ואת מזבח העולה שם פתח משכן אוהל מועד, ויעל עליו את העולה ואת המנחה, כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 30. וישם את הכיעור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח, ויתן שמה מים לרחצה, ורחצו ממנו משה ואהרון ובניו את ידיהם ואת רגליהם בבואם אל אוהל מועד, ובקרבתם אל המזבח ירחצו, כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 33. ויקם את החצר סביב למשכן ולמזבח, ויתן את מסך שאר החצר, ויאכל משה את המלאכה. ויכס הענן את אוהל מועד, וכבוד יהוה מלא את המשכן, ולא יכול משה לבוא אל אוהל מועד, כי שכן עליו הענן, כבוד יהוה מלא את המשכן. Verse 36. ובהעלות הענן מעל המשכן ייסעו בני ישראל בכל מסעיהם, ואם לא יעלה הענן ולא ייסעו עד יום העלתו. כי ענן יהוה על המשכן יומם, ואש תהיה לילה בו, לעיני כל בית ישראל בכל מסעיהם. Okay, that's the end of the book of Exodus. So, there we go. We'll go back to the beginning. We've got about an hour and a half to do some further study and analysis. So we're going back to chapter 38. And let's see what we got here. Let's see what we can talk about. Let's see what we can learn. So it's 38:21 through 40:38. Okay. So when I do the reading in the morning, I try to do as good a biblical Hebrew pronunciation as I can. When I'm going over for the deeper studies, I'm not so concerned with the pronunciation as I am with the meaning. So I may slip back more into my modern Hebrew pronunciation rather than biblical Hebrew pronunciation. I just wanted to point that out. And I am working on perfecting the biblical Hebrew pronunciation. There are different theories about how various vowels are pronounced, how various consonants are pronounced, but I'm doing based on what many studies say, what many people say. Okay, so here we go. Ele Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdut Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe Avodat HaLeviim Yad Itamar Ben Aharon HaKohen. So, so Pekudei HaMishkan. So here it's translated as inventory items. Okay, what is this word Pekudei? Okay, let's take a look at that a little bit more. I'm looking for the noun, visits. So sometimes in code, which is the underlying root, is translated as visit or remember. But let's see here. PL, so here's the PL, master host, mifaked, Yif'al, Yif'al, but we want the noun. Deposit. Yif'al. Pekudim. So apparently it only appears in Exodus 38:21. But let's see here. Pekudim, noun, plural, masculine, abstract, musterings, expenses. The musterings. So that's the way they translate it here in the BDB. And let's see one more thing here. So they're giving the underlying pakad, but we want the noun, the pekudim. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get that directly since it's let's see, pekudim, pekud. Okay, I'm not going to even attempt. Okay, so it might be that this word pekudim appears only in one place in Exodus 38:21, which is where we saw it here. Okay, but it comes from the underlying root pakad or lifaked in the PL form. So they usually translate that as to muster. So let's look at this PL form a little bit. So Isaiah 13:4, for instance, is the example the BDB gives. And let's look at Isaiah 13:4. Kol amon beharim and demut am rav kol sha'on mamlechot goyim ne'asafim Yehovah tzvaot mifaked tzava milchama. So here we have Yahweh tzvaot mifaked tzava milchama. So the God of hosts musters the army for battle, right? So mifaked is translated here as musters, okay? That's the PL form, mifaked. To muster is to call an army together, right? To gather an army together. Okay, so if that's so, then that explains why here it's translated, Pekudei is translated as the musterings. Actually, we see that in the BDB. Down here, Pekudim, abstract musterings, expenses, construct 338:21. Again, I just want to see if that appears anywhere else in the PL form. File, deposit, commit, and trust. So we could go through a lot of examples. So they translate this as musterings. Again, let's look at some other translations here. So this is 38:21. This is the Everett Fox translation, which I often refer to. And let's go down to Exodus 38:21. So Everett Fox translates this as accountings. Okay. Robert Alter, let's take a look at his translation. So again, this is Exodus 38:21. The reckonings. And let's see, the term pikudim immediately followed by the cognate passive verb kad is difficult to translate because, right, exactly. So that's exactly what we were, well, I didn't mention it, but that's kind of what we can see from the BDB, right? There are many translations. It's usually in its most basic form means to revisit, remember, visit, they sometimes translate it as. So, and so Robert Alter points out, El Pekudei Mishkan Ha'idut Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe. So here he says it's followed by Pukad, okay? Which is in the Pu'al form, which is a passive form, passive past. So let's go back to that. Where were we? Here we are. Okay. It's difficult to translate because the verbal stem pe, kof, Dalet covers so many senses in biblical Hebrew. It means to count, to inventory, to take a census, to single out, to pay special attention, to make a reckoning, and more. The most relevant sense in the present context would be inventory, but Hebrew idiom prefers to use general terms for technical senses, and this translation honors that preference. So he says reckoning. So he's using a more general sense rather than saying inventory. When an inventory is transferred from objects to people, verse 26, it becomes a census. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. What is involved here are two categories of donation, free will gifts, and a poll tax of a silver bekat to the head. The poll tax serves simultaneously as a means of extracting silver needed for the sanctuary and as an instrument for counting heads or taking a census by the word. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But basically what he's saying is that this verb, Pekudei, comes from a root, as we saw, that has a lot of meanings. Okay, in fact, when Yahweh says in the book of Genesis, for instance, that he will remember the Israelites and take them out of Egypt, that's the verb that's used, pakad, pay, kof, daled, often translated, as I said, as visit, revisit, remember. Okay, so how do you now translate this word correctly? Ele Pekudei, right? It's in the PL form. It's the gerund would be the correct grammatical term. The noun that's made out of the PL form, right? So if lifaked is to muster, then these would be the musterings. Robert Alter does not like that translation. So what he says is the reckonings. He's trying to capture that idea of pakad being a remembrance or a reckoning, which I think it's a pretty brilliant translation, to be honest. The reckonings really implying an inventory. Okay, but it is difficult to kind of translate this word into English, is what he's saying, and correctly so. Okay, so that's that. So we'll go with reckonings. Okay. We can look at some more translations. I've been trying to break out and not to stick to Robert Alter and Everett Fox. Let's see what the Ibn Ezra has to say. Oops. Okay, so this is chapter 38. And we're in 38. What was it, 21? Right, it's 38:21. So what does Ibn Ezra have to say? Tana'oz av hamun l'shem wehoda v'higacha l'rosh el Pekudei. I think he's just saying, okay. Chela rosh el Pekudei. Tnu oz av hamon l'shem hoda v'higiacha. He's just, it's like, okay, as we see here in the translation, give thanks to God. Tnu oz av hamon. Okay, give strength, or literally give. I'm not even going to bother. Okay, this is irrelevant. He's just saying thank you. Thank God we've reached the final parsha of the book of Exodus. El Pekudei. Ta'am Pekudei hakelim. Okay, so the intention or the intention here, or the connotation here, is Pekudei hakelim. Okay, the accounting of the vessels. Ki milat mishkan kolet hakol. And then he's saying Mishkan includes everything, including the kelim, okay, including the vessels that are part of the Mishkan. That's a good point. When it says Mishkan, so that's a good point by the Ibn Ezra. When it says Mishkan, it doesn't always mean the physical structure of the Mishkan. It means everything associated with the Mishkan, including the vessels, right? Such as the menorah, the incense table, etc. Wapiresh lama nikra Mishkan ba'avur ha'aron. ופירש למה נקרא משכן בעבור, ופירש למה נקרא משכן, okay? And it explains, the Torah explains why is it called Mishkan, בעבור Haron, ששם לוחות העדות, because of the Ark of the Testimony, ששם לוחות העדות, that there or within it are the tablets of the covenant, or the tablets of the testimony. והנה הסדרה קצרה. Okay, so this is a shortcut. وزهو عماد بعبور مختاب إليهم. I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to say here. Let me look at the English translation. It was so called because the tablets of the testimony were placed. Didn't find no, it's really a testimony because God's writing was inscribed upon them. Okay. At any rate, he's giving an explanation of why the tabernacle is called a Mishkan. So I think what he's saying, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what he's saying here is that it's called the Mishkan because of the tablets that are in the Ark of the Testimony. I'm not sure what he's trying to say. I'm not going to get bogged down now. It's irrelevant, really. Okay, but I did want to say why it uses the word Pekudim, and he doesn't really mention that per se. So really the best explanation here is Robert Alter, okay? Which is reckonings. So let's stick with that. Okay. So, Ele Pekudei Mishkan, Mishkan Ha'idut. So here it's called Mishkan Ha'idut. So I guess the Ibn Ezra is referring to that. So Mishkan Bavur Ha'aron Sham Luchot Ha'idut. Okay, Mishkan Ha'idut. So Mishkan, so it's really the dwelling place, right? They call it a tabernacle. I don't know what the underlying etymology of the word tabernacle is. Let's look. As a matter of fact, why is it usually translated into English? Tabernacle. Tabernaculum, tent. Diminutive of taberna, hunt or tavern. Hut or tavern. So it's a tavern. Okay, interesting. Tabernacle. Tabernaculum, tent. Okay, so they're just calling it a tent. But in Hebrew, it's called Mishkan. So Mishkan, Shachan, the underlying root here, Shachan means to live or dwell. So it's a Mishkan Ha'edut, right? We see here that it's called Mishkan Ha'edut. It's the dwelling place of the Edut and the Edut is the tablets of the covenant, right? The tablet. So now, if we go back to Ibn Ezra, right? Scripture goes on to explain why the structure is referred to as a Mishkan. It was so called because the tablets of the testimony were placed in it, right? Now, Scripture was brief, so it was basically a housing for the tablets of the testimony. Okay. And then he says, okay, what's emet? This is the truth because of what was written upon them, because of the writing, or michtav Elohim, actually. So what the Ibn Ezra is saying is that it's these, in fact, these tablets are a testimony. Why? Because they have the writing of God on them. Okay, so this makes them a testimony. Since it's the writing directly from God, it's a testimony of the covenant between Israel and God. So if we put this all together now, we start assembling this. So these are the, we'll go with Robert Alter's translation, the reckoning These are the reckonings of the tabernacle, but we won't call it the tabernacle. Let's find a better translation than tabernacle, since tabernacle just implies tent, and Mishkan implies a dwelling place. So it's Robert Alter actually deals with that one. He calls it tabernacle or something else. No, he does call it a tabernacle, but let's not call it a tabernacle. Okay, let's call it a dwelling tent. Okay, or a dwelling place, because Mishkan really implies dwelling or living. In fact, if we go check that out, and we'll see here dwelling place, tabernacle. Okay, which is from the root shahan, okay, to dwell, settle down, abide, dwell. BDB translates to settle down, abide, dwell. The Strong's obviously gets a lot of, often is just taking it from the BDB. So we'll call it dwell. So Mishkan, I don't like the translation actually of tabernacle, but I do want to. So if we know that tabernacle is the diminutive of taberna, which means a hut or tent, so the English translation of tabernacles is trying to preserve the idea that it's a tent. The Hebrew doesn't imply a tent at all. It's a mishkan. It just means a dwelling place, right? As we saw once again. So let's find a better translation. So how about we combine the idea of it being a tent or being a tabernacle with the idea of it being a mishkan, a dwelling place, right? And we'll call it a dwelling tent. Ele Pekudei Mishkan, the dwelling tent. Okay, the dwelling tent of the Edut. And I think I'm going to start here another, so many of these, but who cares? 5 reasons, interesting. Commentators. So we'll start another one, which is going to be translations, we'll call it. Let's grab this. So we can keep the formatting. Get over here. Rename translations. I am trying to write a commentary on the Torah. Translations is correct. And I am trying, as I do this, I always want to find proper translations into English for words, right? So let's see how we're going to do this. So this is going to be interesting things in Torah. So it's going to be translations. Let's call it my translations. So verse. So we want the verse. We want the Hebrew word. And then we want English translation. And then we want comments. Send this out. So if we go now to, again, this is Exodus 38:21. Let's go to Exodus 38:21. Exodus 38:21. The Hebrew word we have here is Pekudei. Let's grab it. No, I'm sorry. It's Mishkan. We can also do Pekudei. Let's just focus on Mishkan. So we're going to grab that. Mishkan, English translation. Let's say we'll call this usual English translation. English because we know it's into English. Usual translation, tabernacle. Call this, add another one here. We'll call this my translation. And we're going to go with dwelling tent. Okay, and now we can add some comments. Okay, so if we add some comments, so etymology of tabernacle is from the Latin tent, taberna, but this does not capture the meaning, shorthand as much as possible, meaning of Hebrew Khan. Switch up to Hebrew. Oops. So this Hebrew word, which implies dwelling. So to combine the Hebrew, this 1 second, I'm going to do this format. It's going to be wrap. It's going to be wrap. Okay. Object tabernacle. Again, I can do shorthand. 10. Remember, it's not capture. Meaning of Hebrew root implies dwelling. So to combine. So to capture this plus preserve traditional English translation, we came up with dwelling tent. Okay, so from now on, whenever you see the word Mishkan, I will try to translate it as dwelling tent. All right, that's that. So, ele Pekudei, and we saw Pekudei also is a rather difficult word to translate. We see it has something to do with remembering, revisiting, mustering. Okay, and this is the noun form, Pekudei. So these would be the musterings or the rememberings. Robert Alter again translates it as the reckonings, and I like that. I'll stick with that, but I'm not going to put it into my list. Okay, that I can worry about later. Well, maybe I will. Pekudei. Why not? So we can put here. This is also Exodus 38:21. No, I don't need to. I'm only going to do it when I have come up with my own translation rather than someone else's. Okay, so that's Exodus 38:21. All right. So Mishkan Aidut. So Ibn Ezra tells us that it's called the Mishkan because it's the Torah now tells us why it's called the Mishkan, because it's the dwelling tent of the Aidut, of the testimony. Okay. Asher. So what is the Aidut? The Aidut are the tablets, as Ibn Ezra tells us. And I like his commentary a lot better than Rashi's. Rashi's commentary I can't stand. As I always say, Rashi's the worst Torah commentator ever in the history of Torah commentators. Okay, so it's called the Mishkan because it houses the Edut. And why is the Edut the tablets? The Edut are the tablets because God's writing was inscribed upon them. Okay, so that kind of clears everything up. Okay, Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe. Oh, 1 second. What's with Okay. Hungry? Great. Oh. Hungry? All right. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So, Asher Pukad al Pi Moshe, that which was how would you translate it? Commanded upon? Pekudei Mishkan Haidut Asher Pukad al Pi Moshe, that was demanded by, counted by. Let's see again. Oops. That were reckoned by the word of Moses. Okay, so Robert Alter sticks with the reckoned by, right? It's the same underlying root, God. At any rate, I don't want to get bogged down here. We'll move on. Al Pi Moshe. So that was reckoned by Moshe, literally through the mouth of Moshe, by the mouth of Moshe. Avodat Levi'im, the work or the service of the Levites. Biad Itamar ben Aharon HaKohen. In the hands of Itamar, the son of Aaron the Kohen. Okay. Ubetzalel ben Uri ben Hur lemate Yehuda. So here we have Betzalel. We spoke about him last week. He's the grandson of Hur, the same guy who held up Moses' hand as Joshua went out to fight the Amalekites. Asa et kol asher tziwa Yehovah et Moshe. So he did everything that Yahweh commanded Moshe. Wa'ito Holiav ben Ahisamach, so that's Bezalel's assistant. The Matedan. So we have Yehuda. So Bezalel's from the tribe of Yehuda, and Holiav is from the tribe of Dan. We don't really know that much about Holiav, except that he was kind of Bezalel's assistant. He doesn't seem to have the same yichus, the same yichus that Bezalel does. At any rate, so Ito Ohaliav ben Ahisamach Lamatedan, Harash Wachoshev, Wa'rokem, Betchelet, Ube'argaman, Ube'olat Hashani Vashesh. So he engraved, right? Lamatedan Harash, Wachoshev, Wa'rokem. So it's interesting. Why doesn't this say Choresh rather than Harash? These are all in what would be called the present tense, right? Okay. Choshev Rokem. So Choshev is to, it's usually translated as design. It's kind of also a general term to think, design. Rokem is to knit or weave. And Harash is to engrave. So let's see how some of the commentaries deal with that, even though it's kind of a technical point. So woodcarver and designer and embroiderer. And so he, okay, so I see what he does. So he says these are not really verbs, which are not anyway, okay? These are nouns of descriptions of what people do. Okay, so harash, so it's not that he's engraving, he's an engraver. Harash, wa hoshev is a designer. Wa rokem is a weaver. Let's see how Ibn Ezra deals with that one. Carver, designer, embroiderer. Okay, same way. Let's see what the Ibn Ezra has to say, if anything. And let's look at Ibn Ezra here. Avodat Levi'im. Its meaning is שהם נושאים את המשכן ואת כל כליו שהיה מפקיד עליהם איתמר. So I'll just read the English translation to save some time. Through the service of the Levites who carry the tabernacle and all of its vessels, which Itamar appointed to them. The Gershonites and the Merarites were the Levites and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're going to skip that. בצלאל הזכיר כתוב כי בצלאל וההוליאב שהם הראשונים עשו כל מעשיהם כהוגן. Getting used to the Ibn Ezra's style of Hebrew. So Iskira Katuv, so the Torah mentions Ki Betzalel Oholiav, that Betzalel and Oholiav, these two guys, Shahem Harishonim. Shem Harishonim. So they were first, the first ones. Asu Kol Ma'asem Kehogen. They did all of their tasks as expected. Okay, Kehogen. Okay, at any rate, I think we're already passing by. I don't think Ibn Ezra says anything about that. So I think we have our answer here. Harash, Hashev Orokem, it really is a grammatical point that there is no real present tense in Hebrew in a certain sense. There's really only an adjective that is derived from the underlying root, which could be interpreted as the present tense or can be interpreted as an adjective describing someone who does the thing that the underlying root says. So here, it's not that he's doing these things. He's a harash, an engraver. Hoshev, a designer. What Rokem is a weaver. Okay, and we spent a lot of time a couple of weeks ago trying to discuss what these various substances are. Okay, so sky blue. We gave 3 possible sources for the sky blue, which would have been the Hexaplex trunculus, the sea snail, or woad, or indigo, or the other source of sky blue was lapis lazuli, which sapir is usually understood. The Hebrew sapir is usually understood as lapis lazuli. It's a stone that when you crack it open is sky blue, but unlikely that would have been used at that time for the dye. Argaman, we said is possibly or probably Tyrian purple, coming from the Hexaplex or Murex trunculus. The taxonomy is constantly evolving. So they recently, I think maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, they changed the taxonomy from Murex trunculus to Hexaplex trunculus. Again, it's that same sea snail that the rabbis believe is the source of Tchelet, which may or may not be the case. Probably not the case actually, but that certainly the ancient Phoenicians used to create what was known as Tyrian purple, based on the city of Tyre. Tyre was a Phoenician city, one of the main Phoenician cities mentioned many times in the Torah Tzur. With Torah Atashani, this we have translated as crimson, as basically cloth that comes from a worm-like creature, the source of what was crimson. And bashesh, again, we've explored the what this might be. Many people think it is what are called the byssal threads of sea mussels, mussels. At any rate, we're not going to go back down into that anymore. Hold on a second. My cat is driving me absolutely crazy. 1 second. What, Lou? What? Are you hungry, sweetheart? What's the matter? You hungry? That's why you're meowing? All right. The cat keeps on meowing. So let me just do a break for 5 minutes. Take me 2 seconds. I'm just going to go give the cat his food. And yes, sweetheart, I'm going to give you food right now, baby. I know what you want. Okay. So let's see here. How am I going to do this? I'm going to share, stop screen. I'm going to do share screen, Chrome tab, this, boom, stop the camera, get this going, this one in the middle. That works. movie. Okay, we are back. So let's redo this here. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Window, Torah, boom. And that should do it. Okay, so where were we? So we were in Exodus. We're still in chapter, the first verse, 21. Okay. Okay, verse 23. Actually, up to Ito, Oholiab ben Ahisamach, Lamate Dan, Harash, Wachoshe, Warokem, Tcheleb, Argaman, Vetola Tashni, Ubeshesh. Verse 24. Kol Hazahav he Asui Limelacha, Kol Malechet HaKodesh, Waihi Zahav Atnufa. So all of the gold, Asui Lemalacha, so that was made or that was gathered for the work. B'chol Malechet HaKodesh, for all of the holy work. So V'chol Zahav Asui Lemalacha. So this literally means that was made for the sanctuary. So Robert Alter deals with it. All the gold that was made use of in the work. So I think that's a better translation. Kol zahav asui limilacha. So all of the gold that was made use of, I think Everett Fox's translation is better. So the gold wasn't fashioned, it wasn't made, it was made use of. And kol zahav asui limilacha, that was made use of for the work. B'chol malechet hakodesh, in all of the holy work. And I just want to say one point here, but let me just think it out. How I want to say this. Kol zahav hasui lemelacha. This also could be a case where we were speaking last week about how sometimes the outcome of a word is substituted for the cause, right? And it often occurs with the word milacha. Milacha actually represents is actually a substitution. Milacha means work, but we're talking about the material required for the work. So it could be the same thing here. Kol hazahav ha'isui. Okay, so that is made. That's the outcome. The outcome is the making or the use of the gold, but it's really talking about the antecedent to this, which is the gathering of the gold for its use. So it might be a similar construct. Kol hazahav ha'isui lemilachama. So I'm not sure if I want to linger on this. Kol hazahav asui lemilacha. We'll just go with Everett Fox's translation at this point. So all the gold that was made use of in the work. B'chol malechet hakodesh, for all of the holy work. Waihi zahav atnufa. So so it was that the gold atnufa, literally, that was raised up or waved, right? So in this case, the gold that was offered, I guess we can translate it as. Let's see how Everett Fox deals with that. All the gold from the elevation offering. Okay, so Tnufa is a wave offering or an elevation offering. Lanif means to raise up or to wave. Robert Alter translates that as also as elevation offering. Okay, so elevation offering really, in a sense, implies that the gold was elevated, was brought up as an offering, right? It basically means a donation. So Zahav Tnufa, Tesha Esrim Kikar, so 29 of these kikars, that's often translated as a talent. Okay, so Robert Alter translates it as a talent. Everett Fox translates it as an ingot. It's a certain weight. Okay, in fact, maybe we can even look it up and learn a little bit about that. So let's see if we can find that. Kikar, talent. Works. I doubt it, but you can try. Nope, that's something totally different. So how would we find this? How about biblical pictures? Wikipedia. Yes. Wikipedia. Biblical and Talmudic units of measure, Wikipedia. Okay, let's see what we have here. Volume, so Kikar. We can try this. No, so these are different. This is for like grains. Liquid measure, mass, and money. Here we go. So 1 talent. So the talent, Hebrew Kikar. There we go. Okay. So let's just read this. The Babylonian system, which the Israelites followed, measured weights with units of talent, mina, shekel, and giru, related to one another as follows. 1 shekel is 24, it's gerah in the Torah. 1 mina is 60 shekels. 1 talent is 60 mina. In the Israelite system, the ratio of the gira to shekel is altered, and the talent, mina, and giru later went by the names kikar, litra, and gera, respectively. Litra being the Greek form. Okay. It's a bit complicated. So let's just look at kikar. So the talent, Hebrew kikar, in late Hebrew antiquity, okay, we'll read through, even though it's not late Hebrew antiquity. Aegean talents, Akkadian talents. The talent was a unit of weight that was introduced in Mesopotamia at the end of the 4th millennium BC and was normalized at the end of the 3rd millennium BC during the Akkadian Sumer phase, divided into 60 minas, or 360 shekels. So kikar is a large amount. In classical antiquity, the talent was the heaviest of common weights for use, common weight units for commercial transactions. An Attic weight talent was, so that's already later. We're interested in ancient Israel. Ancient Israel adopted the Babylonian weight talent, but later revised it. I'm not sure where they get that idea from. The heavy common talent used in New Testament times, forget that. Let's look at here. The Akkadian talent was called kikaru in the Akkadian language, corresponding to the Hebrew kikar. And apparently, okay, in the Amarna tablets, the name comes from Semitic root kikar, meaning to be circular. In fact, in modern Hebrew, a traffic circle is called a kikar, referring to round masses of gold or silver. The talent was divided into 60 minas, each of which was divided into 60 shekels, following the common Mesopotamian sexagesimal number system. These weights were used subsequently by the Babylonians, Sumerians, Phoenicians, and later by the Hebrews. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go here. And let's see what the BDB says. Round weight of talent. Weight. Okay. So here it's saying kind of the same thing. All right, so let's go back to this. Referring to round masses of gold or silver, the talent was divided into 60 minas, each of which was subdivided into 60 shekels following the blah, blah. We read that. These weights were used subsequently by the Babylonians, Sumerians, and Phoenicians, and later by the Hebrews. The Babylonian weights are approximately shekel is 8.4 grams. Mina is 504 grams, and a talent is 30.2 kilograms. That's a lot. 66 pounds, 9 ounces. The Greeks adopted these weights through their trade with the Phoenicians, along with the ratio of 60 minas to 1 talent. A Greek mina in Euboea around 800 BC weighed 504 grams. Okay, etc. Bible mentions the unit in various contexts, like Hiram, the king of Tyre, sending 120 talents of gold to King Solomon as part of an alliance. It's in 1 Kings 9:14. Or the building of the candelabrum, necessitating a talent of pure gold. So a talent, according to this, is a large amount of gold. It's 30.2 kilograms of gold. Okay. If a gram of gold in modern day, so how much is a gold price per gram? Oh, here we go. So gram of gold is 57. So we'll say 60 euros just to make it. We'll say $60 just to make it simple. So $60 is 1 gram. Okay, there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so that would be $60,000. And 30 kilograms, so 60 times 3, so that would be $180,000 for 3 kilograms, and that would mean $1,800,000. So according to a rough on-the-spot calculation, a kikar of gold would be worth about $1.8 million today. And this is 29 kikars of gold. Let's just say 30 to do the calculation easy. And we'll say instead of 1,000, we'll say instead of 1.8 million, we'll say 2 million times 30. So that's 60 million. Okay, so this value here, Teshai Sarim Kikar. Oh, I'm sorry, it's much more than that. Shai Sarim Kikar was Shvam Otushloshim Shekel. Okay, no, that's a shekel. Okay. So Teshai Sarim Kikar is approximately, if I did the calculation correctly, what did we say? It's about 2 times 30, about 60 million. Did I say that correctly? Let's go through this one more time. So we said that according to this, a talent, a kikar, is 30 kilograms, we're going to say. We're just going to do approximations. So 30 kilograms. We saw that a single gram of gold right? $62. We'll say $60. So a talent is 30 kilograms. A gram is $60. That means a kilogram is $60,000 for a kilogram, right? If a gram is $60 American dollars, then a kilogram is $60,000 for 1 kilogram. Okay. So 60,000 times 30, 60,000 times 3 is 180,000 times 30 is 1,800,000. So we're going to say about $2 million for a kikar in modern days. If we were to buy and sell this gold today, about $2 million for a kikar. And there are 29, but we'll say 30 kikarot. Okay. Just again to average it out. So it's 2 million per kikar. There are approximately 30 kikarim or kikarot. So that would be $60 million. So we're talking about $60 million worth of gold approximately. That's how much gold the Israelites brought to build the temple, right? $60 million worth of gold approximately. Again, that's a rough approximation. Let me get rid of this. shekel or shekel HaKodesh. So let's look at this kikar and the shekel. And see if we can get any indication of what the Torah tells us about these weights. Kikar Zahav Tahor. So this is already Exodus 25. So now we're talking about already this is referring to a kikar of gold. Uh, 2539. Do. How do I get to NIV? Okay, KJV, whatever. $39. Okay, so it just says a kikar, but it doesn't give us a measurement. I'm trying to look for a place that gives us an actual measurement. Kikar lechem, that's something else. Kikar zahav tahor. And this is our verse. So maybe it doesn't say. Curious if it says anywhere that a kikar, talents of silver, 100 talents of silver. Okay, at any rate, okay, so we won't go in that route right now. What can't want? Avi, what? What's there? Come. You want to come in? Come on, baby. Come on. What's with? What's the matter? What? Hmm? Want a little attention? Is that it? Two cats, Lavi and Suf. Lavi just wants the rest. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so we said about 60 million, right? 2 million times 30, about $60 million worth of gold. That's a lot of gold. Okay, maybe we can go back here. 1 second. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Okay, so the talent was divided into 60 mina. Let's look at this. Does this ever appear in the Tanakh? Aramaic, Hebrew, mana. It's mentioned in the Bible where Solomon is reported to have made 300 shields, each with 3 mina of gold. Okay, so let's take a look at that. That's going to be in 1 Kings 10:17. Let's take a look at 1 Kings 10:17. So 1 Kings 10:17. I will just read the English for now. We'll switch over to the Hebrew if we need to. So King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 600 shekels of gold went into each shield. He also made 300 small shields of hammered gold with 3 minas of gold in each shield. So let's go over to this in the Hebrew. This is 10:16. Hakham Melech Shlomo, Ma'atayim Tzina, Zahav, Shachut. So 200. Lavi was already fed. Nobody ate his food. Okay, I gotta do this now. Tzina are shields. Zahav, Shachut. So Shachut is translated as hammers. Shesh Me'ot Zahav. Ya'aleh al Shina al Tzina Echad. For 17 Shlosh Me'ot Maginim. So these are, I guess, smaller shields. Zahav. Shachut, shloshet manim zahav ya'aleh al amagen ha'echad. So here's the word, manim. Okay, shloshet manim zahav. This is translated here as minas. So 3 minas of gold. Ya'aleh al amagen ha'echad. Three minas of gold were used or were incorporated into one shield. Name Hamelech Beit Ya'ar HaLebanon. And the King Solomon, placed them into the house of the forest of the Lebanon. Okay, so if we click on this, we could see if this word appears elsewhere. And it only appears in a number of places, most of them later, right? Ezra and Nehemiah are, of course, later books. This is already after the return of the exiles from Babylon. First Kings is not in a later book. It's an earlier book. It's from the time of Solomon, obviously, in this case, David and Solomon. Actually, First Kings is already after the death of David. Nehemiah, Cheskel, Hamishim Shekel, Mana Yelechem. So this is interesting. Let's take a look at this. Ezekiel, Yecheskel 45:12. And so here we have a statement. Okay. Shekel Esrim Gerah, which we already see this in the Torah. Esrim Shkalim. Shekel Esrim Gerah. Esrim Shkalim. Hamisha wa Esrim Shkalim. Asara wa Hamisha Shekel Amana Yelechem. Okay, let's try to make some sense out of this. So Shekel Esrim Gerah. So the shekel is 20 gerah. This is this measure that we saw here. Where was it? I think we have to go back one more page. So the shekel is 20 gerah. That's what we saw, right? So in the Israelite system, the ratio of giru to shekel was altered, and the talent mina and giru later went by the names kikar, litra, and gerah, respectively. Okay, so shekel is 20 gerah. We see this in Yecheskel, but this also appears in the Torah itself. Okay, gerah, and there's an etnach there, so that's like a comma or a semicolon. Esrim shkalim, so 20 shekels. Hamisha wa esrim shkalim. 25 shekels, Asara Hamisha shekel, 15 shekels, Hamana Yelechem. I don't know what this is trying to say. Okay, let's try to make some sense out of this. Esrim shkalim, Hamisha esrim shkalim, Asara Hamisha shekel, Hamana Yelechem. So this is literally says Hamisha esrim shkalim, or 25 shekels. 15 shekel. I'm sorry, let's start here. 20 shkalim. I'm sorry, the shekels is single. 20 shkalim, 20 shekels, 25 shekels, and 15 shekels will be a mana for you. So it's giving 3 different measurements. So what the heck is going on there? That's kind of strange. Let's see if we can get an English translation. See if the English translation can make some sense out of it. No, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Where was it? 12. The shekels consist of 20 gerah, 20 shekels, plus 25 shekels, plus 15 shekels equals 1 mina. That's weird. There's a footnote here. That is 60 shekels. Let's go back. So the way this English translation, the NIV, with its footnotes is saying, it's 20 shekels plus 25 shekels. It's 45 plus 15 equals 1 mina, 60. Okay, so they're adding them together. So let's go back to the Hebrew and see if that makes sense now. And that was in verse 12. Shekel 20 gerah. Pause. 20 shkalim. 20 shkalim. 10 shekel. Hamana yeh lechem. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't just say 60. That's kind of a strange way of putting it. Let's see what Robert Alter may have to add. That's Ezekiel 45:12. This is the entire Tanakh, actually. Nope, another half an hour or so. So that's Ezekiel 45. Okay. 12. And the shekels shall be 20 gerah, 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels shall be the mina for you. Let's see his commentary here. The word means weight. It is used in several other Semitic languages and is not, as in later usage, a coin. That's right. Shekel is a weight. Although equivalents in modern measurements are often proposed by scholars for all these terms of weight and volume, there appears to have been some fluctuation of their values in different times and regions. Okay. So it doesn't really add anything to that. Let's look at maybe what Ibn Ezra says. I seem to like his commentary so far. Oops. So he doesn't do Ezekiel. Okay. So Obadiah, Micha, Nahum, Tzfani, Habakkuk. So he does not have a commentary on Ezekiel. Let's look at some other commentaries. So if we go to Ezekiel 45:12, let me switch over to the English. And then I can go to 12, and I think I get a whole bunch of different commentaries, most of which I've never heard of, but they're worth looking at anyway. So let's see here. If I go now to, I think I have to go to comments. So the shekel, the first part of this verse, is merely a restatement of the old law, right? Exodus 30:13, Leviticus 27, etc. That the shekel should be of the value of 20 gerah. But the latter part of the verse is extremely obscure, right? The manna is mentioned elsewhere only in 1 Kings 10:17, Ezra 2:69, Nehemiah 7:71, and is translated in our version as pound. Its actual value is unknown. If the text stands as correct, it is possible that in Ezekiel's time, 3 different mannas were in use, of the values respectively assigned to them, but of this there is no evidence. So to make a long story short, it's as is often the case, we don't know what this verse is saying. So, excuse me. So, who is it that we read that said they should be added together? I think it was Wikipedia said they should be added together. I can't even remember now. But here, the opinion of this commentator, Eli Kotz's commentary for English readers, is not that it should be added together, right? And there's no indication in the Hebrew here. If we go back to Ezekiel, now I've got to get it back in Hebrew. Let's see how we're going to do this. I think we can do it like this. All right, so let's go back here. So we see the Hebrew Ezekiel 45:12. Shekel 20 gerah. Pause. 20 shkalim, 25 shkalim, 10 shekel, hamana yeh lechem. So here it says 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels shall be the manna, shall be this mina for you. Okay, so that's, again, very ambiguous. And we saw somewhere, I can't remember where now, that you're supposed to add it together, and that would make 60 shekels for a manna. But then this commentator disagrees. Let's look at some other ones. Matthew Henry's concise commentary. No, that's general. It's not on that particular verse. Jamison Fawcett Brown Bible commentary. The standard weights were lost when the Chaldeans destroyed the temple. Okay. The threefold enumeration of shekels, 20, 25, 15, probably refers to coins of different value, representing respectively so many shekels, the 3 collectively making up a maneh. So here he says it's collective. The 3 collectively making up a maneh. So here he's adding it together. This guy, Ellicott's commentary for English readers, is not adding it together. He says that each of those represents 3 different manehs, right? It's possible that in Ezekiel's time, 3 different manehs were in use. Okay. By weighing these together against the maneh, a test was afforded whether they severally had their proper weight. 60 shekels in all, containing 1 coin, a fourth of the whole, 15 shekels, another third of the whole, and another third and a 12th, 25 shekels, Menochias, whoever the heck that is. The Septuagint reads 50 shekels shall be your maneh. Weird. Okay, having laid down, this is Matthew Poole's commentary, having weighed down the standard for weight and measure in less valuable things, and that are sold for money, now the standard set down for the current coin which passed among them, and the valuation of which was part of the prince's prerogative. First mentioned in the text is the shekel, which saith the text contained 20 gerahs. Now every gerah was 1 penny. Okay, we don't need to go into that. Maneh, some say, is 1 pound, and that the pound was either least, middle, or greatest, according as there were more or few shekels in it. So here, this guy says there are 3 types of maneh called least, middle, and greatest. according as there were more or fewer shekels in it, the 15, the 20, or the 25. The least of the common pound was but 17 shillings, blah, blah, blah. Oh boy. The least or common pound was but 17 shillings and 6 pence. The next, which was the royal, was 50 shillings, and the greatest or pound of the sanctuary was 62 shillings and 6 pence. So I'm not sure exactly what he's saying because I don't understand English weights and measures. It's hard enough trying to understand the biblical ones. I think we get the idea. Let's read one more. Let's read this one. Pulpit commentary. This seems to be detailed. This ordained that the standard for money weight should remain as had been fixed by the law in Exodus 30:13. It says that the shekel is 20 gerah. Let's look at that for 1 second. Right, I'll just keep it in English. Each one who crosses over to those already counted is to give half a shekel, according to the sanctuary shekel, which weighs 20 gerah. And it's the same in these two. Okay, the shekel or weight from shakal to weigh, and by the way, I think the English word scale is related to the Hebrew word shekel. You can trace it back through the Latin, back into the Greek, into the Aramaic, and all the way back to Hebrew. Okay. Compare the Italian lira, the French livre out of the Latin libra, and the English pound. I guess that's pound sterling. It was a piece of silver whose value, originally determined by weight, became gradually fixed at the definite sum of 20 gerahs, beans or grains, from gerar, to roll. Interesting. So we find out that a gerah might be from gerar, to roll. The gerah value, 2 pence, was the smallest silver coin. The shekel, therefore, was 40 pence. So again, we see that, right. So the shekel was shekel esrim gerah. All right, so the shekel was 20 gerah. And then, right, and then so we really want to find out about the mina, though, right? That's where we were. Boy, it's confusing. Again, you really need a whole long study on this. Okay, the shekel, therefore, was 40 pence or whatever. Commentators are divided as to how to understand the second half of this verse. Should it be understood 20 shekel, 5 and 20 shekel, 15 shekel should be your manah. The manah or portion from manah to be divided, which occurs only here and in 1 Kings 10:17, Ezra 2:69, Nehemiah 7:71-72. That is to say, only in books written during the captivity or subsequent to it. Well, First Kings was not necessarily written in the captivity or subsequent to it. It was probably the same coin as the Greek reigns, though its weight may have differed somewhat differed. A comparison of 1 Kings 10:17 with 2 Chronicles 9:16 shows that a manah was equal to 100 shekels, which cannot be made to harmonize with the statement in this verse without supposing either that an error has crept in through transcription, or that the chronicler has employed the late Greek style of reckoning, in which 1 mina is equivalent to 100 drachmas. Again, the Hebrew and Attic talents, when extant, failed to solve the problem as to how the text should be rendered. Well, this is getting very complicated here, right? So maybe we should just leave it and say it's unknown, right? Because we don't want to do a whole study just on this. Let's look at 2 Chronicles 9:16, just out of the heck of it, just for the heck of it. Okay, so 2 Chronicles 9:16. He also made 300 small shields of hammered gold. So I don't know what it's referring to here. A comparison of 1 Kings 10:17 with 2 Chronicles 9:16 shows that a maneh was equal to 100 shekels. He also made 300 small shields of hammered gold with 300 shekels of gold in each shield. So we'd have to do a comparison. Okay, I think we should. It's a very interesting topic. It's a fascinating topic. It's something I'd like to go into longer, but I think we should push ahead. Okay, so I'm going to close all of this out. for now, and say that we don't know how much the mina is, as is unfortunately often the case when we study. Okay, that's why these things require. I mean, there are probably professors who have dedicated their entire lives to biblical weights and measures, right? So we're not going to figure it out in about 20 minutes. But what we do see here, we did do a calculation, and we did see that, where were we? No, we passed that already. Okay, we did a calculation here, and we did find out that the shekel is approximately, where was it? Oh boy. Right. Shekel was approximately 11 grams, let's say. And we did a calculation here, and we found out that, okay, so there were, let's see, we did a calculation for so we found out how much the kikar was. We said there was approximately 2 kilograms, if I remember correctly. And at any rate, we did a calculation, and we found out that we were talking about, was it $60 million worth of gold in today's measurements, or in today's value. Okay, so we have here 29 kikar, 29 rounds or loaves of gold, I guess you could say, with 730 shekel. Okay, and 730 shekels, b'shekel kodesh, in the holy, according to the holy shekel. Okay, in other words, according to that weight. Once again, if we look at the kikar, I've got to find it. 1 second. Right, the talent. So we saw that the kikar was, oh boy, now it's getting confusing again. 60 money. Okay, I can't remember where I did it, and I'm not going to go through it now. But we found out that there was about $60 million worth of gold that this accounts for in modern value, in today's value. And gold has gone up recently, which is nice because I own some gold. And so that is get better. We're calling it the dwelling tent. Okay, so for the dwelling tent, for the building of the dwelling tent, the Israelites brought approximately $60 million worth of gold. That's a lot of gold. Now, you know that 600,000 Israelites okay, and that's $60 million worth of gold. So each Israelite brought $60. Obviously, probably some brought more and some brought less. These are all rough calculations. Don't hold me to them. Okay. Okay, verse 25. So the silver that was mustered, or that was reckoning, or for the reckoning of the silver. I'm assuming that it literally means the Gat Yisrael. My mistake. So, or again, and I think this is a bad translation as well. So we're going to add this to our new translations, because the word Edah. So we saw when we analyzed the meaning of this word that it either comes from Eid, which is witness, Eidut, which is testimony, from comes witness. So really, Edah we bring it over here. Again, why am I doing this? So I'm trying to put together back here, and I want translations to be accurate, good. So this is in many places, but the one we chose here is Haidah is Exodus 38:25. So how would we call this? It's like basically it's the literal Jehovah's Witnesses. Haidah is like the community of witnesses, right? So even look at that, but they translated. I'm sorry. They said the other one is Ya'ad, to a point, but I don't think so. I think the word Aidah really comes from Aid, and here we even see Aid. Okay, Aidah. Testimony. But here, the implication, at least according to the BDB, property company assembled together by appointment. So they're saying it comes from Ya'ad, Adat. Assembly company congregation, feminine of aid, in the original sense of fixture, stated assemblage, specifically a concourse or generally a family of crowd. Assembly, congregation, compare Aidah. Testimony. So I'm not really sure what they're saying, but I'll make a note of it when I do my translation. So let's call this the Aidah. I'm going to assume it's related to the word aid, which means witness. So the Aidah is the witnessing community, witnesses. I would know. Let's see. How can we call this the witnessing community? Witnessing Jehovah's Witnesses. The witnessing community. What's the usual translation? No, that's my translation. It's witnessing community. Usual translation is congregation. Could come from either the root Ya'ad, Ed, or Ya'ad. Requires further investigation. For this translation, we have assumed the former. Okay, that's it. That's a note. So we will now call Aidah the witnessing community based on the word Ed. Okay. Pekudei Ha'aidah. So the silver of the reckoning of the donations of the witnessing community. Me'at kikar, so 100, shekel. So it's 100 talents. Okay. So again, we said that one talent was about, I think, 2 kilograms, we said, right? We said 2 kilograms. Now I've got to do it again. So kikar was 2 kilograms. We said 2 kilograms of gold. We said 1 ounce, 1 gram of gold was about 6 grams of 62. No, I'll do it again. Kikar. So talent. Okay. Where was it? It was in the biblical weights and measurements, right? Shekel. I don't know. I'm not going to do it. It's a lot of silver. We'll leave it at that. Okay. 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 So obviously, and so 1,757 shekels according to the shekel hakodesh. So 1,757. Okay, so it's a lot of silver, but less than, let's see, here we had for the gold. Okay, so it's 29 key cars of gold, and here it's 100 key cars of silver. So the key car is the big kahuna. That's the big weight, right? So let's actually try to get it. I have to go back to that. Where was that again? Darn. The mina, the talent, the shekel, talent late Hebrew antiquity. Get that. There was a nice little chart. Now I can't remember where it is. Is it back here? Mass and money. Okay, forget it. I don't want to get bogged down. It's a lot of silver. All right. V'shivin shekel v'shekel hakodesh. Okay, so beka legulgolet. So how much was brought? How much of the silver was brought? So beka legulgolet. So beka legugolet. A beka is a half a shekel, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look that up. Right? This was a half shekel. So beka legugolet. So each person brought a half shekel. We know that this is the half shekel that each Israelite is supposed to bring. Beka legulgolet machatzit a shekel. Shekel kodesh. So I think it's defining here. So literally, what it means is half for each. Gulgolet is literally a head or a skull, but it means for each person. Okay, so half for each person, and then it's defining. Then the Torah is defining what that means. Machatzit shekel. So bekel gulgolet, half for each person is half a shekel. Machatzit is half a shekel. B'shekel kodesh, according to the holy shekel weight. L'chol over ala pekudim, for each person that passes on over the census or passes through the census. Okay, Iben esrim shana uma'ala. Okay, from 20 years of age and higher, l'sheshmeot elef u'shloshim alafim v'chamesh me'ot v'chamishim. The sheshmeot elef, so 600. U'shloshet alafim and 603,000 and 550. So I should write some of these numbers down, just to make another one. And I'm going to end the study in about 5 minutes, and then we'll pick it up this afternoon. So, translations. We'll do another one. Numbers. Okay, so verse, number, description, comments. Comments. A whole big spreadsheet by the time this is done. All right, so now we are in so this is Exodus 38:26. Oh, my battery's about to go dead. So we'll finish it off after this. So the number that is being described in Exodus 38:26 is מבין 20 שנה ומעלה ל-600,000. So 600,000, 3,000, 603,000, 603,550. So that is 603, 550. There we go. Okay. Description. And this is going to be number of half shekels. We'll say census. Census based on half shekels. And we'll add to this. I could actually just grab the English translation here. So that's Exodus 38:26. Oops. Translation. So 20 years older or more. Oops. Only people, and I'm not even sure if it's a man or women or both. I assume just men. People, I think men. Right, this is going out to the army. $26. שקל הגולגולת מחצית השקל ושקל הקודש לכל העובר על פיקודים מבין 20 שנה ומעלה ל-600,000 ל-3,550. So I'm going to assume that's men. Okay, but I'll put in parentheses includes only people. Men. The cat has to go age. One more time it happens outside. Okay, age 20 and okay, so that's 38:26. Let's add one or two more things and then we'll end it. How much battery do I have left? 8%, that's in fine. Okay, so let's add this. So this is Exodus. Now I'm going to end it. It's getting too late. All right, we will pick this up this afternoon. This has been the morning study. Hope you enjoyed it. And we will pick it up with an afternoon study this afternoon. With these studies, like I said, I like to go through the Torah portion and I like to go into great detail. I know for some people this may be boring or tedious, but I'm not here to give a quick sermon like a rabbi at a pulpit and then say goodbye. I'm here to do it on these studies, on these Shabbat studies. Maybe other time I will, but on the Shabbat studies, my goal is to do in-depth study and analysis of the Torah portion. So feel free to come for part of it, some of it, none of it, as you wish. But we're going to end the morning study and we will pick it up this afternoon in about 2.5 hours. The links are posted for the afternoon study. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this study. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.